What's going on, everybody? This is the Cycling of Matter assignment 3.7, 3.8. It's primarily just going to be an overview of the nitrogen-oxygen cycle from McGraw-Hill. So a quick overview of the questions. We're looking at how living things use nitrogen, what happens during nitrogen fixation, and how we have nitrogen returned to the soil. So a little bit of an idea of a cycle there. We have a small extension that has to do with the showing a label diagram, how that works. And then when we get into oxygen, we're really just kind of reinforcing that fact why all living things need oxygen, and then some fill in the blanks, and then a few other things. So going into the nitrogen cycle, what do living things use nitrogen for? And that is highlighted that it's an essential part of the proteins, which all organisms need to stay alive. Again, if you were going through the extension, you would show a cycle here after reading this, and you can kind of see where the different things go. When we look at nitrogen fixation is a process where the atmosphere changes nitrogen into nitrogen compounds. So basically what happens is lightning takes nitrogen, and instead of having one atom, it becomes two atoms. And then that's the nitrogen that would fall to the ground and be able to go inside living things. How is nitrogen returned to the soil? So all living things have nitrogen in them. And when different types of bacteria and other organisms that break down the dead tissues of organisms, that's how it goes into the environment. It can also go in there in ways of waste or manure. And for people that do landscaping or take care of their grass, this is also another step where you can get different types of manure. Some of them do have a pretty pungent smell to them, but you can also get, for a few extra dollars, you can get some manure that doesn't have that smell that's quite so strong. So for this question, what do living things use nitrogen for? It's an essential part of proteins. What happens during nitrogen fixation? Changes in the atmosphere put nitrogen into a nitrogen compound. And then the last question, how does nitrogen return to the soil? By ways of either manure or when organisms are broken down by the help of other organisms that detrivores. Those are organisms that break down things that are dead. So different types of bacteria, maybe mushrooms, worms, maggots, all those little things. We'll get into the oxygen cycle here. And in the oxygen cycle, what we're looking for is why do all living things need oxygen? During the photosynthesis process, and then this is kind of basically just based on this chart. So our first question is just simply oxygen is necessary for all living things to be able to breathe. And it is simple as that. Complete the diagram by filling in the blanks with the correct terms. So during photosynthesis, we'll start with this question right here, which is incidentally this question right here. So during photosynthesis, plants release blank gas into the air. Plants release oxygen into the air. And during blank parts, plants take in carbon dioxide, and this is going to be photosynthesis. Animals and other organisms release carbon into the air, and that is going to be dioxide. And this part of the word right here, the oxide, you can kind of hear a similar sounding word of oxide, oxygen, and the di just means two. So carbon dioxide is CO2, and the di just means, the di is a prefix meaning two. So that's why carbon dioxide, 2 molecules of oxygen. Excuse me. How is oxygen a part of other cycles? Well, the carbon dioxide is part of the carbon cycle, and oxygen, I guess that's all we have. You taking carbon dioxide. Oh, and it's also part of photosynthesis, because plants take in carbon dioxide, they use the carbon to make sugar, and then they release some of that oxygen off as a byproduct. So oxygen is used as part of the carbon cycle and part of photosynthesis. And how are humans involved in the oxygen cycle in their ecosystem? We breathe in what plants release, and we exhale carbon with oxygen after we have used some of that carbon for energy. So humans are involved in the oxygen cycle in their ecosystem simply by breathing or respirating. If you have any questions about what needs to be read or answered, I recommend going through this reading section, pause your video. I've given you the answers for this above. A little bit of a lengthy section, but this will help you out with those other questions. And then as far as the nitrogen cycle, most of those answers are highlighted right here. And you can pause your video to get those. Make sure you complete things in a full sentence. Get it done, turn it in. Doing a good job making that extra effort. Everybody should be getting A's and B's. Good job. See you.